Welcoming back to the program, someone who gives us a lot of clarity at times when we see, certainly with regard to the military and what Donald Trump and this administration is doing. General Randy Manner, retired Major General, U.S. Army. And General Manner, so great to have you back to discuss
Thank you
what
for
we
having me.
saw yesterday. So, yeah, I thought what we saw yesterday was one of the most frightening things so far in this administration, because you had all of these generals brought back to this country from around the world so that Donald Trump could use them, it seemed, as a prop, like it was directed toward them, I guess, but also toward all of us to put some fear into our lives about him using the military, and he said it right in front of them. Tell me your thoughts as you saw that, as you heard about it happening.
So, first of all, this is, again, our president seems to be slipping quite a bit, even from the campaign, let alone years ago, into the depths of, quite frankly, self-serving dictatorship. Why do I say this? If he truly wanted to say something to the generals and the admirals and senior enlisted leaders of the world, he could do it anytime by setting up a secure Zoom call, essentially. It's not a Zoom call, but it's a secure teleconference call to be able to talk to them about any issues. The fact that he did it televised reflects the fact that the generals and admirals and senior enlisted leaders were props and nothing more than props. And it's very sad, extremely sad, that the administration continues to go down in the depths, quite frankly, of despair and desperation, because those any respect that the generals and admirals and senior enlisted leaders might have had for the person who by law is called the commander in chief was further diminished by a rambling political speech that if any general or admiral, or for that matter, a college student had been giving a speech, would have received an F in terms of its effectiveness and for its cohesion. This is unbelievable to have a senior elected leader to be, quite frankly, so incompetent at speaking.
Yeah, and he started out by telling them they could clap for him, even though that's not the military protocol. And but he was kind of saying, "It's okay, you can clap for me," because I don't think he can get through a speech without people applauding him.
So I told many of my friends, family, and a few networks that the one thing that's going to come out of this is the president's going to be pissed as hell that no one was applauding and hooting and hollering the way that he did with the 82nd Airborne Division, where those young soldiers were handpicked as Trump supporters to be able to respond to him like a political rally. Senior military officers and senior enlisted leaders are trained and educated about the appropriate way to act in front of their elected leaders, which is, by the way, being totally apolitical. They are there to follow all lawful orders, not to participate like a political rally. And despite the president and I won't call him the secretary of whatever, the SecDef, saying the words, they were told not to applaud, that's crap. It's absolutely lies. They were acting as the true apolitical leaders that they are. If you ever notice during a State of the Union address, the chairmen of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the members of the Joint Chiefs sit there and they do not applaud for
Right.
90% of the cases, other than if they're saying something positive about the military. They will stand to attention when the president enters the room and when they leave the room. But they're apolitical, and this is changing the rules, and this is a danger to all Americans.
What went through your mind? What do you think went through the generals' minds? And I'm sure you know a lot of the people who were there.
Yes, I do.
When when
They're
Trump said,
basically
yeah,
going, what a waste of taxpayer money. Number one, it cost millions of dollars to move all those people. And remember, the average American does not understand that when you move a four-star general from his or her command, that you have to also move a couple of aides and executive officers. You have to move communication specialists so they can be in full contact constantly with their command in case anything was to happen while this little circus went on. And they also have a small security detail because the enemy would obviously like to target them significantly. So we're not talking about just 600 or 800 people. We're talking about thousands of people that had to be moved. And you don't exactly put them on United Airlines or whatever. You don't do that. You put them on secure transportation for the majority of them. Millions of dollars wasted. And for what? They all knew what was going on. They obviously cannot say anything about it, and that is what makes our makes our military leaders great, is because they're not going to kowtow to any one person. The same way General Milley said when he said, "We don't pledge allegiance to any leader. We pledge allegiance to the Constitution of the United States."
And when Trump said to them, we have to now go after the enemy within, we have to use our military in this country, we have to use our cities as training grounds. And you all, many of you in this room, are going to be a part of that. What could they possibly have been thinking? And how can that become a reality?
It's absolutely absurd. These are the words, by the way, the idea that the SecDef said, I want you to do whatever it takes to win. I don't care what you do, ignore all the laws of war. That sounds a lot like the Soviets in World War II, and it sounds like the Russians right now, where they will do anything to civilians, they will do anything to destroy infrastructure, to attack hospitals, they will do anything, quote unquote, it takes. That is not the American way. That is not the way of the heritage of the American soldier. That is not what we are known for. And it's important for all of our listeners to understand this is something where we are going down a dark path. And these leaders at all levels, they know what is being said. We have training grounds on military bases where we can have controlled environments so people do not get hurt, and so that we control all of the training. Training is a very dangerous business in the military. We have many times more people die during training than we do during combat operations, unfortunately, because it takes a lot of training under very difficult circumstances to prepare our young men and women to be the best warriors on the planet. And training in American cities is absolutely blasphemy, dangerous, and it is not appropriate whatsoever.
There was an implication, if you're not with us, you should get out. You should leave. Is that something that some of the generals are even thinking about, or are they actually saying we have to be here to stand strong and make sure that we keep this country together?
I believe that there's a possibility that a couple could resign. I believe the overwhelming majority will say, I need to be here to take care of our young men and women, to ensure that they are led by the best possible people, to ensure that whenever we go into harm's way, that we bring back everybody, and that we're there for them and for their families. So I believe that the majority, not majority, virtually all of them are going to stay, and they will do the right thing at the right time. I believe that strongly.
Pete Hegseth, you mentioned a little while ago some of what he said. It was a really extraordinary moment there where he said we're not going to have any oversight. We're going to get rid of these inspectors general. They're just a haven for complainers and whiners. We're talking about standards that have been put in place over decades to prevent abuse, to prevent corruption. He basically said we're getting rid of all of that. He also attacked the generals right in the room, some of them for being overweight too. I mean, it was I could go on, but your thoughts.
I don't even know where to start with everything that was wrong with a disgraced major who was kicked out of the DC National Guard. Talking to everyone in that room was a combat veteran with many more years experience per person than he could ever think of. Yet he is treating them like they are incompetent and talking down to them in every stretch of the imagination. He was talking to them like he was on Fox News. He was not talking to them as an inspirational leader. He was talking to them as a politically motivated person who is doing nothing but serving the person who put him into that position. He's not inspirational. He doesn't have the experience. He is somebody who, quite frankly, would never, ever have been able to be in that position other than his relationship with the president. Compare him with all the secretaries of defense before. There's just no comparison. So the fact that he was speaking, that alone is insulting.
And then I couldn't get over Trump telling these military leaders that he won, I don't know, 6 or 8 wars or whatever he was talking about, that he won them. These are people who actually have been in war. And then he actually said about Washington, D.C., it's so dangerous. He said, if you go to Afghanistan, it's worse than even that. It's like those people, many of them have been in Afghanistan.
Yes.
They know that Washington, D.C. is not that dangerous. I mean, it was so embarrassing and cringeworthy. This man has no limit talking about the Nobel Peace Prize, all of it.
So that's why I'm actually very concerned about his mental stability anymore. Not just because he can't keep a even thought, but even what he says is rambling and is constantly whatever pops into his head. It's very sad, unfortunately. Unfortunately, he's also the president, and so um, I'm. Everyone in that room knows it. Those people are well educated, all of them, senior enlisted officers, most of them have 2 degrees, if not more. They've been around the world. They've been, all of them been in combat. They know what truth is. And what the president and the secretary of defense were saying, that was not the truth. And that's the part that is so offensive to anybody who truly has been in Afghanistan, as I have, who's been in Iraq like I have, who've been in many other countries around the world, in Russia, in Ukraine. And it's just absurd, the lies that come out of this administration about our American cities. Don't get me wrong. I believe strongly in law enforcement. I believe absolutely in the idea of community based law enforcement and of having the ability to go after the root causes and holding people accountable for when they break the law. Absolutely. That means we need to be able to invest more in community engagement and local officers that are trained and to recruited and trained to be on the street, not our National Guardsmen and women who, quite frankly, have no training whatsoever and are there again as just for intimidation and for political props, which is very sad about what our young men and women are going through right now.
And again, he was speaking, Trump, to the American people using the generals, especially when
Yes.
he said, we're going to go after the enemy within. He was using this as a message to the public. What should we be doing? How should we interpret this? How should we feel when we see the president saying this to generals?
The president has already said that he hates anybody who doesn't support him. Okay, that's quite a statement by the person who is supposed to be the president of all the people. He already says he's not. He's not the president of all the people. The concept that they basically said, hey, if you're not a white male in this room, you were promoted because of DEI, and you're not qualified. How insulting is that? They want to turn our military into a white nationalist, right wing personal army. Again, white, right wing. Because I've always been proud, historically, and while I was in for my 35 years, that our American military, it didn't always represent our people. However, over the past decades, it's gotten much more to represent women and people of color and people of different national origins, such that the military was America. The military was America. And the president's comments about the enemy within, I want to make sure all your listeners understand fully from a retired general of 35 years. The enemy within is not the American people. I say again, the enemy within is not the American people. And we can take it from there.
He also was trying to make people obviously feel afraid and also sending this message that I think I mean you say a lot of the generals will stay, but there was also an idea that I feel, you just said about the wanting to make the military more white and white supremacist, right? That they may shake up a lot of the people in that room. They may fire people. They may, you know, make it so that those who they recruit are part of that army. How much should we be worried about that? And certainly, they have 3 years. I don't know how long that takes to basically transform the military.
So we should be very, very, very worried because the president has already fired many women and has fired many African Americans and has fired people who might have been supporting the idea of everyone having equal opportunity for consideration for positions. He's already done this. He's going to continue to do this because the past is prologue. It's something where we should be very worried about it. Whether it's the Undersecretary of Defense Tata's far right conservative ultra nationalist perspective of saying, let's create a recruiting program that's going to target all those young people who really feel bad about the very sad assassination that occurred a few weeks ago. You got to be kidding me. We're going to attract people who are white nationalists while we're also telling that if you are of color or you're a woman or you're not a white male, that we have no room for you. Not only is he saying that politically, he's saying it in the military. This is
Hmm.
a clear and present danger to our country to have our elected leaders who are dividing us, and instead of trying to bring us together to provide hope and inspiration, better jobs, better education, and so on. That's not what is happening here. This is intimidation and fear. And it's targeting those that are not white and
Hmm.
not male. And it's very sad. We should be very concerned.
Well, I appreciate your giving us your knowledge and certainly making sure people understand um, how much of a important moment this is. And I appreciate your coming on and having the conversation. Thank you so much as always,
You're very
General.
welcome. Thank you for having me, and thank you for what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. General Randy Manner, retired Major General U.S. Army, and someone who uh, always gives us a lot of enlightening information and warns us about what's happening. We're going to come back, folks, in a couple of minutes.
The Michelangelo Signorelli Show on Sirius XM.